All right, welcome back, YouTube. I wanted to really just, as far as we're starting this year, I really wanted to just dive into just some educational aspects as far as for understanding the market and getting a better idea because I've witnessed a lot of uncertainty and even to some degree a level of ignorance over the last few years of going just back and forth in the market, back and forth in conversations with different people, and just really understanding what happens when you make an investment or how to properly analyze the investment. And I kind of wanted to create a series just to kind of understand that. So today we're going to talk about winners and losers. And the truth of the matter is there has to be a winner, there has to be a loser in a market. We can blame hedge funds, we can blame the system, we can blame just favor as far as for the amount of money you invested, rich versus poor, all that kind of good stuff. But when you win a trade, someone lost on the other side of that. That money came from somewhere. You took that money from somewhere. And when you lose a trade, that money went somewhere. It's not magic that's happening in the market. It's not like a magic pool of money where the money just appears and it comes from. So every time you jumped inside of a trade or made money on an asset, whether you flipped an option contract or executed an option, there's someone on the other side of that where that money came from. So you didn't randomly pull $5,000, $10,000 out of the market. Like and even if you're not trading, like if you are buying or selling an asset, if you are buying or selling crypto or stock or anything like that, when you sell an asset, someone is buying that asset. So when you say, oh, okay, well, I want to buy at the bottom and sell at the top, in order for that technically to happen, someone has to buy the top. Like, so there is someone that's going to essentially get screwed on the end of that transaction. So that's what kind of creates the market. There's someone that's saying, I believe that this is the top for this asset, or I've hit my target, right? And I'm getting out. And there's someone saying, I believe this is going to go up. I believe this is not the top. And one of you is right and one of you is wrong. That is it's literally how the market works. It's no different than, supply and demand, whether you are selling goods on a market. It's really the same thing as far as how the market flows and how it works. Now, when it comes to the investment side, obviously you want to do things to put yourself in a position where you're winning as much as possible. No one has a 100% track record, not even hedge funds. They make bad trades. Most of them are good. Obviously, it's a little easier when you can control the market or influence the market, but no one wins 100%. There are some things that go against you. There are some things that are out of your control. That's one of the things I believe heavily talking about is macros. And sometimes news can put you in a bad position if you're in an option and you are running out of time and some bad news comes out. You could have technically done nothing wrong, but because the news came out, it changed the direction of the market, even if it's temporarily. But time is now against you, so now you're going to be forced to probably even get priced out of this trade. Even though after it corrects itself, it may correct itself to what you thought was going to happen initially, and time was just against you. So these are all things that have to play a factor in there, and you have to do things to put yourself in a position to win as much as possible and control the things that you can control versus the things that you can't. And that's one of the things that I believe in heavily. If you follow the channel, you know that we talk about like charting, we talk about like macros, and really trying to get as much things as possible to align with our theory as possible so that we can take educated positions, right? So that we're not taking just guessing or taking stabs in the dark and hoping for the best. I don't believe in hopium. I don't believe in emotions in the market. I believe the market is emotionless, and we are mostly trading news and feelings at that moment versus in the long term, the truth and the facts matter more, right? So if you looking at understanding like there's winners and losers in the market, when you understand that liquidity flows in and out based off of the emotions at that time, and the market is trying to predict the future value of an asset, and you're trying to get in and say, okay, is this undervalued or overvalued? And you're trying to say, okay, how do I get the best deal on this asset? And what you're looking for is really not trying to necessarily time the market, but understanding whether or not the tide is going to change and whether or not it's overvalued or undervalued at that moment. And you can analyze this and say, okay, well, does this company have a competitive advantage? Does it, is it, is the company dying? If I'm looking at the charts, has it been declining for the last 2 or 3 years? Am I just buying it simply because it's cheap? Did I get this out of a Facebook group, out of a Reddit group? Are they saying to the moon? Are these people getting paid to say these things? These are all things that matter when you understand that there are winners and losers, and this comes together, it fits together nicely as a puzzle when you say, I need to educate myself as far as my approach to the asset and not just relying on hopium and groups and YouTubers and things like that to kind of educate me. And don't get me wrong, there's some good people out there, people that mean well, but for the most part, it's a lot of misinformation. A lot of misinformation out there, and people who are either getting paid to promote certain things, who will lie for money. There are people who, we've seen in crypto companies pumping up markets, pumping up these new cryptos, and they own 50, 75% of the float, gain traction, pay YouTubers, pay influencers to promote the coin, then rug pull it. We've seen it all. And you have to be in a position to say, okay, what's my process to evaluate these assets? Because there will be a winner and there will be a loser on this asset. The money's going to go somewhere. The money's not just necessarily going to disappear. So how do I put myself in a position so that I'm winning most of this, or I'm attracting the money and protecting myself, and when I'm in these investments, whether that's stop losses or having percentage points. Okay, if it turns against me, I'm going to get out at this level versus my only strategy is buy the dip or something like that. It's really comes down to education and understanding that there are winners and losers. And really, I'll tell a quick thing here, because I know that with in the past few years, AMC has been really big as far as we're going against hedge funds, and understanding that there are winners and losers was kind of like when the community found out that Citadel owned a lot of the publications that the news is actually being pushed out. So, and it really is not even uncommon for hedge funds to own publications, magazines, news articles, and they have basically their own journalism staff. So if you are trying to do research on an asset, you have to now consider where that information is coming from, because it could be I'll just say this: no company or hedge fund or really just anybody's not going to give you information to put them at a disadvantage, right? The purpose, and that's why you have to kind of take that as a grain of salt with a grain of salt, is because if you say this company is short on this position, right? They're not going to tell you to buy and hold this position. They're not going to list the position that they're short in as a buy, right? So you have to kind of understand that and make sure that you're doing your own research and evaluating the asset for what it is, because where you get the information from is also going to matter. And this is what I mean by winners and losers, because there's multiple levels to this. They're going to feed you information to put themselves in a position to win. That's why you have to be feeding yourself information to put yourself in a position to win. Because at the end of the day, most of the people are tuned into what's in it for me, and they're trying to serve their best interests. And as an investor, you, especially now with the market that we're in, since we've had this huge rush of institutional investors, we have to make sure that we are not just liquidity for the markets, because that's what we will be used as. That's what ignorance is used as. You become liquidity for the market. You become the funds for the market to kind of just slaughter and take all the liquidity away. And then everybody starts posting record-breaking profits and stuff. And meanwhile, the retail sector got screwed. And I don't want that for any of you. So education is very important, and certainly understand that a lot of places where you get news, just kind of double check it, triple check it, compare it to what you're seeing, use common sense as well, and run over the charts if you can, and just really just focus more so on the macros if you're a long term, and see where that company is going to be a few years from now. If you're trying to trade, then certainly you can trade news, and we'll get into that a little later. But ultimately, those are a lot of the things you have to consider if you're looking at comparing the markets and making money out of the markets, and comparing winners and losers, because there has to be one or the other. So with that being said, hope you found value in this video. Please subscribe for more. We will see you guys in Understanding Markets Part 2.